not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove that what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. It's Romans 12:2. Before that, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. How hard is it to do that sometimes? Sometimes I'll find myself, and I know a lot of people can relate because I hear pastors joke about this often, by not having the most patience when driving. And I'll constantly be having a dialogue. And sometimes my first reaction will be to just be like, and flip my hand even at somebody when they cut me off, or when they're blocking the fast lane and I have to get somewhere. And it's like I'm constantly praying for this patience, but my reactions aren't always in line with where I want to be in terms of being Christlike and showing grace and patience in every situation. And it's not just that, but that's an easy example. But I know this, times that I have been in the Word, significant lengths in the morning, and trials have hit me that day, my response is much quicker in terms of having patience and grace. Like I'm much less quick to anger or to, get upset. And that's why I think of our minds, like a computer that needs to be defragged. But when we're out in the world, we're constantly polluting our minds. Like when we constantly downloading things on our phone or on our computer that just slow it down. And we're not defragging it. We're not allowing it to really be free to respond the way it's supposed to at full capacity, to be running at optimal speed. And the more we fill our minds with the Word of God, stay in prayer and fellowship, the easier it is to respond. But I've got 48 years, well, it was more like 40 years of running on fuel of the world to a good 8+ years of being in the Word. But even that still fluctuates. But the less it fluctuates, the more consistent in the Word every day, the more your mind defrags when it's being renewed by marinating on things of God and in His Word. John 16:32-33 says, Look, an hour is coming and has already come when you will be scattered, each to his own home, and you will leave me all alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take courage. I have overcome the world. If we're not in the Word, if we're not focusing on His will for us daily and spending significant time, because every time we're not in the Word, we're in the world. If we're not in fellowship, if we're not at church, in prayer, we're in the world, and the world is chasing us. 1 Peter 5 talks about the devil being a roaring lion. He's constantly seeking those who he may devour, and he wants to devour Christians who are devouring more of the world rather than the Word, because they're not as armed and equipped to fight back. But as we're defragging our minds by renewing them, by being in the Word, we're going to be much quicker to act Christ-like. And that's also what Romans 12:1, which preceded Romans 12:2 says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. So do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. It's much easier when you're spending more time in the Word than you are in the world. I watch my share of streaming platforms, and I feel like there's a lot of truth in plain sight that can be used for teaching, but if it's outweighing time in the Word, the response time is going to be less Christ-like. I know that's how it is with me, and I pray that you find more time to spend in His Word, seeking His will, than seeking our own will when we're spending time in the world, letting it affect us in ways we're not even always aware of. God bless you. See you tomorrow.